Hi, this is Representative Al Baldessaro, and we're back at Who's Looking Out for You with my great co-host, Jeanine, Representative from Merrimack. It's always a pleasure.
Same here.
Here we are, back again, another show.
I know, it seems like it's just been 5 minutes since the last show.
Yeah, kidding you. And we went easy on the last one.
Greg
now,
Moore.
The next one, guest that we have could be a tough one.
Yeah, I read about him in the papers. They never just say his name. They always have to put an adjective in front of his name.
The sky was going to fall.
Right, the controversial. I just laugh. They obviously don't know the man.
The term you're reaching for is conservative firebrand.
Yeah,
conservative firebrand.
That's
I
what
like
I am.
He cut
Yesterday,
$900 million from the budget.
And we were part of it.
Putting grandma out in the street. Shame. The Honorable former Speaker, Mr. William O'Brien.
Representative, good to see you.
It's a pleasure.
O'Brien, always good to see
Welcome
you.
to Londonderry.
Yeah. Have you guys noticed that there are no liberal firebrands? There's liberal
No.
leaders, but there's no liberal firebrands.
I don't
You can
understand
be
it.
Maxine Waters and call the wrath of the nation down on Trump officials, and you're not a
Conservative
liberal
women.
fire. The worst you are is Ted Kennedy, the lion of the Senate.
Yeah.
You become a lion when you're a complete jerk
Yeah.
and a liberal. On the other hand, if you're a conservative leader, you're automatically a conservative firebrand. Both you guys are conservative firebrands.
Wow.
I'll hang out with you.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Well,
It
Yeah,
is. It's
I will.
intended from us.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a business
My
card.
freshman year, my freshman term was when you were speaker, and we had the supermajority, and
Yeah.
all the freshmen, the freshman bond, and we're Bill's kids. That's how I used to
So did I
say.
come across as a conservative firebrand?
Yeah, he was.
I-
Actually, I kind of.
To a normal person,
Yeah.
perhaps not. To someone who hates conservative leadership.
Right. Well, I
I
was
made
new,
his
so
life
that's all.
miserable.
You were all I knew.
Yeah.
And then the ones after you, no one's measured up.
Do you know when he was a speaker, I made his life miserable because many people came and said Al's got to resign. He's got to resign. You got to fire
Oh, I
him.
know. And people said Al had a scary face, and Al was my chairman. And there was
I
one day
intimidated
he got up, and that's just his resting dad face. And
Yeah.
I texted him. I said, you know what? You do look scary.
So do you remember the time, you always tell this story, we were in the speaker's office, and for some reason or another, we started comparing, personal firearms. We were carrying.
No, well, it wasn't. We were comparing.
I think
I
we were.
walked in. We were talking about resign. Remember?
I know it was in
And-
connection with that.
Yeah, it was. And I put my hands. I took my gun out, set it on the table, and I said, "I'm here to resign."
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, Dan Itza, Paul Ebertson, all took their
All
guns
guns
out.
Yeah, we
out
said
and
no
compared.
fairness.
Yeah,
Al,
yeah.
I saw Lynette Peterson and Sue DeLemus comparing guns on the third floor. And I'm like, I didn't have one with me that day.
See, another time I was in Concord. We were getting ready to leave, and he pulled up behind me. I was at the Dunkin' Donuts. And he says, "Oh, I got to go to Boston. Will you hold on to my gun?" I looked at it. I said, "What is this, a squirt gun?" I said,
It was a
Take it out of his
32.
gun.
I said, what are you going to do with that little thing?"
I know it's not the cannon you carry around, it's a 32.
Well, back then, a lot of people don't realize the threats that we had to take. You know what I
my
mean?
gosh,
I had somebody
terrible.
call my house, say they're going to come over with brass knuckles, and I tell them, look for the Marine Corps flag, but just watch out for my booby traps.
Yeah. Well, the best response I heard was Representative John Burt from Goffstown. Somebody called him up and said, "Look, I'm from Connecticut. I'm coming up to kill you." And John said, "No, you're not." The guy goes, "Well,
I
how
could hear
come?
him
How do
say
you know?"
that.
He said, "Well, first of all, you wouldn't tell me." But he says, "You might just be crazy enough to arrive, so I'm going to leave the light on. I live in a crowded area. I'm going to put the light on for you." He said, "I may or may not be in the house when you arrive.
Right.
That's your risk."
Yeah.
But come on up.
That's it. Say,
See,
"Hey,
John
you
was a
want-"
freshman with me too, and J.R. Hole,
Yeah,
another one that
was a
makes
great-
that's
yeah.
never name is never just in the paper as by itself. It always has an adjective in front of it.
Well, again, yesterday in the paper, they were talking about J.R. Resigning. They mentioned that he came in
Fire.
under the
Well, not
conservative
running again,
firebrand, Bill O'Brien, and then they worked themselves up in such a lather in the article that they started calling him a conservative firebrand in the article.
Wow,
So-
unbelievable. Imagine if I decide not to run. Imagine what the papers are going to say.
Well, it's not going to be worse.
Yeah.
We had that contest, and you lost.
We did. No. They end up dropping it, remember? So we were even.
Get down to the round.
But I made him feel better because he was the speaker, and I said, "I'll let you win the contest."
I wasn't the speaker at the time.
Democrats
Oh,
were
that's
raising.
right. And you guys were all.
What was it? Who was the most
Who was the most extreme?
extreme?
most extreme? That's right. And
Most
you
extreme
were both
conservative.
And there were
vying for the
16 or
top
s-
spot.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
were 16 or 17 people that ended up down to Bill and I.
Yeah, no, we're doing fundraising off it. If
Yeah.
you get into the, the sweet four, whatever they call it, the last four, you got to raise so much money for the party and all
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And they realized in the end
It's,
they weren't coming out well.
it's weird how the Democrats consider us extreme when you're cutting business taxes, cutting the budget.
Right.
We had a deficit of $900 million, or almost $900 million, and then this other stuff that we did, and I don't understand why all of a sudden didn't we pass Stand Your Ground back then? Was Stand Your
We
Ground?
did.
Yeah, we did pass that.
Yeah, we did. And I spent the next spring going up and down the roads in New Hampshire looking for Grandma in the snowbank.
Yeah, me too. All the
everything
shootings
worked
that
out
were going to
okay.
go on. Yeah.
I do remember that, and I
ain't
remember
kidding.
the speeches.
Yeah.
Right.
But what
Oh,
do you
yeah,
do with
it's
yourself
incredible.
now that you lost all that excitement? You're not involved anymore.
Well, I was in there until, about a year or two ago?
Yeah, 2 years, yeah.
2 years ago.
Hasn't been
And-
the same because even though we're in the majority, I feel like I'm in the minority.
Well,
Did
no, if you
you,
remember, I
um,
became an outside agitator pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's true, and that's
The
what we
speaker
wanted to
was
talk
saying-
about.
Did you sit in Murderer's Row?
I did
Yes.
sit in Motors. I anchored
Row.
Motors Row.
I was right in the
Anchored.
center.
Okay, yeah, you were right in the
I
middle
was
of
right
Murderer's
dead
Row.
center.
Yeah, you
Sue
had.
DeLemus was the only woman in
Yeah, that's the
Murderer's Row.
famous seat that you had. I don't know if you know it. I might have mentioned this to you. That's the Charlie Bass seat.
Yeah.
Because Charlie Bass opposed some speaker when he was a committee chair, the re-election of some speaker, and lost. The speaker, I think it was John Roberts, was elected nonetheless. And so John gave him the worst seat in the House, which is
Yeah.
the worst
That was
the seat
me.
you got, Al. I don't know why.
So that might
But
have
it
told
was
you about who
longest
was more
roll right in the
extreme
middle.
than
Yeah.
you, because he put you at the end.
No, he wanted me there in the worst way. He just couldn't do. You can't do that to a former speaker. Give him the worst seat now.
I hear you. But you know something? He didn't stop me from going up speaking or anything like that.
No, I didn't slow
But
you up at
you know
all.
something? I mean, I wrote a letter saying I could never ever work for you as a chairman. And I've been on Veterans Affairs for 12 years. I just was honest with him.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to ask me. Don't ask me to be your chair. So naturally, he did that to me.
You're
But
talking
then-
about Speaker
Speaker
Jasper.
Jasper. But then once he won fair, then I went up and shook his hand and said, "Hey,
Right, he did.
congratulations."
You
We all
didn't call
shook
him
his
a
You know
hand.
what I mean? I didn't
Democrat,
call him a
Democrat.
Democrat. Yeah, Mr. Democrat chair, nothing
But
like
you
that.
know what? After
So we
he-
became friends after that.
And after he left, even the most conservative people in the House could say that if Sean Jasper were still Speaker, HB 1319, that transgender bill, would not have passed.
If he was Speaker, it would not have passed.
Right, isn't that what I said, or did I say it wrong?
Yeah, no, you did. No,
Oh.
but that surprised me. I just got to repeat it because that
no,
surprised me.
he was on our side and he understood the danger of passing a bill like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And anybody can
Yeah.
just say they identify as a female and they can go use the ladies' room
Oh, it's a horrible
with
bill.
your
I mean,
kids.
do you remember? I think it might have been the term before you were there. That bill came up, and we spent a lot of time opposing it.
I wasn't there,
and
but I was in the
defeating it.
gallery watching, and I was horrified. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And nobody. Well,
I'm
and,
so
and
di-
I
I'm
made
so
a YouTube
disgusted over
video
that
about
bill.
it.
And it really showed where our opposition comes from, because if you remember that debate, I think you were there. We ended up putting forward, I think it was 26 amendments to point out
Oh, yes.
the absurdity
The
of
bathroom bill.
it. Yeah,
Right.
we had one amendment that said
I do remember all the
elementary
amendments.
children
Yes.
couldn't be taught by men in dresses if they were under the age of 10. Democrats voted against it. It's
Right,
just crazy stuff.
I remember Fran Wendelblow's speech. I remember hearing her talking about, I feel like I'm a woman today. I'm going to go down and get a job as measuring women's bra sizes at Victoria's Secret. That was
Right.
it.
And it really is disrespectful. I mean,
But-
all the gains that have been made in the 60s, and let's face it, going up to that point, there were a lot of restrictions on women coming into the marketplace and the solidifying of roles and everything. It was good. I think the women's lib movement, if you call it that, up until then was good. It was basically saying to our daughters and to women, you can be whatever you want. You can be
right.
president of the United
Well,
States
women's
as long as you're not
sports.
Hillary Clinton.
Let's
You can-
talk about women's sports. At the beginning of each show every week, Al was always asking me, how many miles did you run this week? And in my last half marathon, I came in 5th in my division. How am I ever going to place now that I have to run against men dressed as women?
Jeanine, you and I talked about that, and I've repeated, it was about 2 weeks ago, I think we talked about it, and I've repeated what you said to a number of people because it really horrified me. You're now being put into divisions where you have to run against men. And physically, women aren't men. Their hips are wider, you have to
Right.
kick out your legs rather than run straight. It's just, it just isn't fair. It's like trying to take two different types of individuals and say
Right.
compete against each other, where one type is always going to be, as a group, more proficient. It isn't fair.
Bill, you know what disgusts me of this whole thing? You and I are grandfather parents. I have 7 granddaughters, and I had 3 daughters, and I have 2 stepdaughters, so there's 5. But anyways, what disgusts me is the children that are innocent, that are playing sports in schools and gyms and locker rooms, bathrooms, are going to be there with a boy who's thinks he's a girl with a penis, okay, and I'm saying it on TV, vote me out, with a penis, that is going to be in there showering with one of my granddaughters.
Well, what's going to happen, unfortunately, is it's going to drive young girls out of sports.
Right, yes.
And it's going to drive them out of participation in gym. You know, there's that famous example of the wrestling tournament. Where is it out in Ohio? One of the states out Midwest, where they started to allow this young fellow to participate in the women's wrestling division, and he was breaking the arms of young girls. You know, parents were pulling their daughters out of competition, and you know, he was winning. It just wasn't that he was winning, but he was winning all these tournaments. But he drove girls away from something that they should be allowed to participate in.
I don't know if that's the same event or if it's another one where it was
Texas
a transgender a girl who wants to be a boy, but they wouldn't let her, whatever it is, compete with boys like she wanted to. So I guess it's a girl becoming a boy. But she's taking steroids. No one else is allowed to take steroids.
Yeah, so there you go. There you go.
So
Because when I was growing up, in the worst way, Jeanine, I needed steroids if I was going to
Yeah. I was 135 pounds.
Yeah, no, I
playing,
was
ice
117
hockey.
when I graduated from high school. I needed steroids. I mean, really did. No, that just isn't fair. It wasn't fair for you and your division when you're running marathons. It wasn't fair for me.
And I remember having this discussion with people in the 80s about having women in the military. So you were a Marine. Can you imagine being out in the field and you have to dig a foxhole, and who's going to dig it faster, you or the woman?
Naturally.
Because we don't have the upper body strength.
I must tell you, there are some women out there.
Some do. Some are badass.
There are some,
I know some
that can do just as much as men, but they're far and few between. Okay, on carrying a 75-pound pack. When you're in the field like me, I was out in the field for 30 days, no showers, you're washing a helmet, you're waking up, getting up, you're standing there washing down in the nude. You're amongst all your fellow Marines. Okay, now when you throw women into the mix, if it's that time of the month or if they need this or that, where do you go? You don't stop the war and say, wait, time out, we got to get some tampons, or we got to do this or that, or wait, let's build shower facilities. It don't happen.
You guys don't carry tampons?
Corps.
I thought you did. In case you get shot, you put that in there.
No, yeah.
That's what I was told.
So all I know is, it caused problems in the military, but they're working out the details. But the thing is, you're trained to fight wars. I don't know if you know, his father was a colonel in the Army. Right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, served in
He went in a month after Pearl Harbor and got out after tour duty in Vietnam.
Yeah.
My father helped liberate Dachau,
Yeah.
Patton's Third Army.
Yes.
And then after the war, he joined the Marines, and then he never spoke of the Army again.
Wow.
Really.
Bill,
The Army was a good life for my father.
One of the things we want to find out about you now, this new adventure you've been on for the last year, the New Hampshire Center Right breakfast meeting. First of all, I love the bagels and coffee. I was
haven't had
aggravated
one
one
yet.
morning, I showed up, no bagels,
Well,
no coffee.
my co-conspirator, Steve Stepanek, sent them home.
Oh,
They're a
did-
little bit late.
Right.
And I'm looking out as I'm running the meeting, I'm looking out, and Steve gets up, and they arrive with a bagel, and sends them away. So you're too late.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
But anyways,
Probably the right thing
what
to do.
made you get involved in this group? Can you tell everyone about this here?
I sure can. What happened was, and we referenced it before, I became involved with a group of representatives almost immediately after I finished up as a representative, some of whom came to me and said, this budget that's being put forward is 11% increase in spending. It's in the House of Representatives now. What do we do about it? And I said, well, we have to organize against it. And quite frankly, my advice was you have a great situation here as conservatives because you have Democrats who will never, ever, under any circumstances, vote for a Republican budget. The Republican governor can come up with anything, and that's just the nature of the opposition of the Democrats. It is vote as a group, as a bloc, and be obstructionists. It's so you know how they're going to vote. So you can go to your leadership, you can go to the governor and say 11% is too much. They tried that conversation and it didn't work out, so we organized across the state and within the state house to oppose that budget. And as you know, to cut to the chase.
That's where the Freedom Caucus came in.
That's where the Freedom Caucus came, and to cut the chase, what happened was they couldn't get a budget out of the House. They had to go to the Senate and take a small spending bill and make that the budget. But what I found as we were doing this, that a lot of the center-right groups in the state were bringing in Second Amendment people, we were bringing in right-to-life people, we were bringing in tax groups. A lot of these folks either had never talked to each other or didn't talk much, didn't know of the commonality of purpose and concerns they had. And I had seen a model in the past where this would work. Down in Washington, Grover Nordquist on a weekly basis has what do they call the Wednesday morning breakfast meeting,
Right.
which is basically about 150 to 200 people come together. There you have U.S. senators come, their staff is always there, representative of the president, if the president is Republican, will be there. All kinds of different interest groups get together, listen to each other, and have some fairly strict ground rules, which is don't waste our time with personal attacks.
Right.
Don't waste our time with posturing and virtue signaling and talking about how bad Obama is. We don't need that. What we need to know is what are you doing? How can we help you out? And I decided let's try that model here. I called up Grover Nordquist, who runs Americans for Tax Reform, which sponsors that meeting, and said, what's the model there? And so he talked about it. We put together some ground rules, and we just got on the phone and said, could you come? Talk to someone who I know you know fairly well, Greg Moore from Americans for
we
Tax
just
We
had him
just
on.
had him on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, and we asked him, can we use your office? We have no money. It's
Right.
basically Grover Nordquist's group is paying the $75 a week it takes to provide a dieter's breakfast for everyone, the coffee and bagels, and it seems to work out really well. We open the doors early.
It's gotten bigger and bigger.
Yeah, 7:30.
But
We
you have to
open
be
the doors.
invited, right? Not just
Yeah, it's
anybody.
by invitation.
But
There's
I've
everything.
been attending, but I've been writing on my whiteboard right of center meeting, and now I see it's really center right.
It's close, right of center, center right. It's the terms are used interchangeably, and it's worked out well. We have real short presentations to make sure that we can get as many people
I
talking
like
as
how
possible.
you keep them at 3 minutes.
Yeah, we try to keep them at 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll usually have a keynote speaker, either congressional candidate or the someone from the
Wayne
governor's
McDonald
office.
is the-
Yeah, this
week.
upcoming meeting will be Wayne McDonald, who it appears is going to replace Jeannie Forrester as chairman of the party. We've had the chairman or representatives of the Libertarian Party there, Free Staters. It's basically everyone who's center-right. Come, talk to us. How can we help?
So I wasn't able to go January and through February, I believe, because I'm also in the pro-life caucus, and we were meeting at the same time every
Right.
week. So
Yeah,
now
no,
I
it's
can
tough,
go.
and there's never any good time. We wrestle back and forth.
That's New Hampshire.
When do you meet? When do you-
Every event,
Yeah.
like there's an event you're going to tonight, I can't go because my club is having an event. So.
Right. So what we decided to do is, one, be very, very regular. We always meet the second and fourth Wednesday, and no matter what. We had snowstorms. We had a huge blizzard, and it took me about 2 hours to
And you
drive
went
and
anyway?
get there. It
Wow.
started literally at 5:30 in the morning. Got there around 7:30. Don't you know that still 20 people showed up? So
Wow.
they
Oh,
always
yeah, I was
know.
going
Yeah.
to go to that one, and I was going to go with Juanita and Mike
Yeah, I didn't
Dangle.
even make
but
it that morning
we
because
didn't
it
go.
took me an hour, a couple hours just to get out of my yard.
Yeah, no, I expected that it would be me there. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if Steve would make it, and like 3 or 4 people from Manchester.
Did the
And
bagels
still,
arrive?
The bagels did arrive.
In the
yeah,
snowstorm,
Yeah, in
alright.
the snowstorm. So we want to make sure everybody knows it's always going to happen. We're always going to have a host there. We're always going to have an agenda, and we're going to have folks that they can talk with.
And bagels.
And bagels. And the meetings last from 8 to 9 o'clock. We're thinking of actually, and I kind of threw it out last time, I'm not sure if you
To
guys.
extend it at 9:30?
Yeah, to extend it because, what's happening. For example, this upcoming meeting we have, is it 10 speakers besides the keynote speaker? I
Yeah,
think it's somewhere around
yeah,
that.
you got-
So it really gets it to be very
Oh, Ed
quickly.
Nail. Ed Nail's going to be there.
Yeah, Ed
That's
Nell's
good.
coming, and then we're going to have, I'm told, about 10 or 15 new candidates for state representative who are
Wow.
going to show up and introduce themselves. And so what I might do with them is do it over like 3 meetings, 5 a meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
So it works well. You know what the best part of it is? It's not even what you see. It's not the presentation. It's people afterwards sitting down,
Right.
taking out their laptops, handing out literature, making appointments with each other, people talking to each other again. who
Networking.
hadn't
Yeah.
networking, who hadn't talked in the past.
I looked at, you brought all these groups now under one tent. which is a no-brainer because, I mean, how many times we had scattered groups all over the place and you brought them all together, which is a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, and it really is an
Yeah.
advantage for the center-right effort in
Right.
Hampshire, we think.
Now, who thought of that? You or Steve?
Well, again, I started putting this together,
Yeah.
but it's not an original idea with me. It started in New Hampshire because
Right.
of my efforts, but it's really what's been
I was
going
just
on in
checking if
Washington.
Steve Stephan got credit for that. That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
check and see. You know?
Steve, thank you.
I know I get a phone call every week or
yeah.
every other week from Steve.
Steve has been
Reminder.
great in putting this together. He does
You know,
what I don't have the patience to do, which is to get on the phone.
He
And
had-
he'll spend a day calling.
Oh, yeah.
He had Donald, before he was president, Donald Trump come to his house and he invited all of us.
Right,
and
we were there.
We were jam-packed.
was there, yeah.
Oh, that's right. 'Cause I sat near your wife. It was jam-packed, and Donald Trump said, "Thank you for allowing us all in to trash your house." And right after he said that, somebody dropped a glass and it broke.
Oh, yeah.
Like right on cue.
I was part of organizing that visit, and we'd anticipated a great meeting. Maybe there'd be 150 people there. I think there must have been 400 or 500.
Oh, big time.
showing up.
Packed.
I don't know how we all
I
fit in
should've-
there.
I
And the boy next door, I took him with us, and he photobombed now President Trump, and it made the tweet. It was all
Well,
over
you know,
the country.
Bill, I went to Bill's house, I think, 3 times. He had,
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz
You-
there.
I remember you being
And-
there.
and I like Ted Cruz. I thought he's a great conservative. But, being a veterans activist, I met all the candidates and asked them questions. And there was one thing that I really lost confidence in Ted, was that question about the bill that's sitting in Washington at the time on the choice program that he said he took care of, that I was involved in, and yet I already knew he didn't co-sponsor, sign off. So I said, did you even look at the bill? I said, are you sure you know the bill I'm talking about? And, oh, yeah, I'm sure. I said, no, you did not co-sponsor yet. The bill's still sitting there.
Yeah.
Because I called out Kelly Ayotte, too.
Yeah.
Because Kelly Ayotte didn't co-sponsor, and we forced her into it.
Something
You
the
know?
3 of us have learned being in front of voters and everything is you got to just be straightforward.
Yeah,
You can't be one perfect.
right.
You can't know everything,
Mhm.
but you have to have an attitude
I
that
w-
says, "I'll listen to you."
I wish he came back at me and said, well, I got to look at it and see.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
he didn't. He tried to.
No, you're always so hesitant to not know something that
Mm-hmm.
is important to the person standing in front of you. And maybe I took a beating over the years. I just say I don't know it.
Right.
I'm going to find out though, because here's my principles, and do I know
Yeah.
where they can be manifested? No, I don't know everything, but
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
It's like I don't commit on any bills that I'm going to sponsor or co-sponsor rather with anybody. I say, send me over the bill.
Yeah.
Let me look at it.
Yeah. No, people
You
do.
know?
That's actually a good rule. I'm sure
Because
you do
once
that
you
as well,
give your
because-
word and say I'm going to support, and then you find something that's there,
Yeah.
you say, oh no, I can't support that.
Yeah, and we've had these conversations. I'm sure you came to me when I was speaking. And I have to look at it first.
Right.
Because I don't know, what you exactly had in mind, and I don't know how it's going to come out of the
Right.
draft.
Well, I was glad my parrot bill went through when you were speaker,
Oh,
because
you're
that was a
kidding.
late bill, and I had to go before the rules committee to get permission. And
Is that the one that Gary Hopper, Representative Hopper?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, he said,
Parrot-
if you
paratroopers.
get caught with a
Right.
parrot in your house, the parrot troopers will come. And,
Right.
and then
Right.
an email was sent out with a green Glock. It said standard issue for parrot troopers.
There was
Right.
a veterans bill, a flag bill, and it somehow it got screwed up. It didn't come
Oh,
to the
I
Veterans
remember the
Committee.
flag bill.
So what happened is it went to another committee and they passed it. I went to Bill. He had a policy that chairmans do not go on the floor and fight other chairmans. So I went to him. I said, okay, well, I'm going to resign. That's how important it was to me. He
Was
said,
that
no,
the
no.
honor and
He
remember
said to me,
flag?
don't do that. And I didn't even think of this. He said, I'll send it to a second committee. And he did.
Yeah.
He sent it to my committee, our committee, and we killed it.
Was that the honor and
The
remember
honor and
flag?
remember,
The honor
yeah.
and remember flag. Good intentions, I understand, but it looks like a Viet Cong flag.
Right.
And I remember.
And a lot of
it
veterans
kept
were divided
coming
over
back.
that flag.
Yep.
It would have caused more problems.
What committee
if
did it
that
go
bad.
to originally? Do you
It went to
remember?
municipality, I think it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get 1,500 or
Right.
2,000.
It was an
bills,
honest mistake.
Yeah, that's
But I
right.
said, there's no way I could let this go.
And then-
Remember, I was prepared
Yeah.
to
And the
resign.
And the Purple Heart.
As the chair over
The
there.
Purple Heart plate, because
Yeah.
I was on
Would
your
that go
committee.
to Public Works? Or?
Well, it went to our committee and we killed it, and then it came back the next year. I don't remember when that was. I think it was last term. And they passed it. It was the Purple Heart plate can go to the wife.
The wife, yeah.
I'm like,
Right.
well, yeah, but the wife that was married to the guy when he was in the service and
Right.
got the
That's
Purple
always
Heart, or the
difficult when
new
you start
wife.
doing
That,
that.
Yeah, that veteran earned that Purple Heart. God
Yeah.
bless the wives, the
Right.
spouses. They didn't earn. They
and
didn't.
we didn't have a
Right.
problem with them keeping
Right.
the plate, but
Yeah.
to have it on your car, you didn't earn it.
That's right.
Only
Right.
the recipient should
Right,
have
yeah.
it. So, and
Yeah,
that passed.
you're right. I mean, I've seen that when you drive past
But
a
the-
car with
But
a.
now I see it, I'm like, well, he may or may not be the Purple Heart
But
recipient.
to the veteran
Yeah, you don't know.
community, they thank you, because if that ever passed, the veterans in the state were all divided on this thing.
Oh, the
That
honor and
caused
remember
over
flag.
that flag.
Yeah.
And we compromised. They fly it on certain days at the cemetery.
Well, and you know, that's a point I used to make with you and other chairs, is you've been given a great deal of responsibility and the ability to have that conversation with the
Right.
speaker, the ability to control the bills that go to your committee. And so there is a requirement for kind of loyalty to the
Oh,
to
and
the
I
group.
respected that.
Yeah, I think and it really
Yeah.
kind of works better. We were able to do some terrific stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know, I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's in the 30s. I think it was like 32 or 34% of the bills that became law that term became law without Governor Lynch's signature.
That's right, yeah.
It was a huge percentage.
Because he knew we had a veto-proof legislative.
Right,
Yes.
and I remember that veto day, that first bill that we
I think it,
overrode.
I think it's,
remember-
yeah, I think we had one day that set a New Hampshire record for veto overturns. So it's very difficult generally to overturn a veto. You know, you have to get 2/3 to overturn it. And we were just, you know, one after another, because we had a great group of constitutional oriented reps, you know, good conservatives, people who understood this is our agenda and this is what is needed by the people in New Hampshire. We stuck together.
Do you miss the game? Do you miss it, being up there?
You know, it's very difficult. I don't want to sound egotistical, but it's very difficult to be there in a non-leadership role when you've been speaker.
Right.
It's very frustrating. It's very hard to deal with that. So I think I actually do better on the outside, helping others through measures like this, or, you know, if some reps come to me and say, how do we do this? Kind of saying, you know, here's how you do it. You know, here's what I recommend. I think that's a better role for me to play.
If somebody wanted to get in touch with, like, NH,
How'd we
the
run out
Center,
of time?
right, breakfast meeting, how, do they get in touch with you, or how do they?
Yeah, you
Or
can,
call it.
actually, probably the best way is to send me an email to my personal email address.
Okay.
And that's William L. O'Brien. No apostrophe, no period or anything, William L. O'Brien at gmail.com. You got to put the L in there, because there's some guy
Okay.
named
Well,
William
we'll
O'Brien.
put
who's
that
getting
up
my
on the
email.
screen anyways there, and
Yeah.
that way, you know, conservatives and others that see this here, or groups that are out there that want to get involved can do that.
Yeah, and you know, if you're a member of the center-right community, you know, come to us and we'll look at it and invite you to these meetings. We want it to be including anyone who needs the assistance
Oh,
of their
that's
colleagues.
awesome. Phil, it's always a pleasure,
Well, great. Thank
you know,
you.
having you here.
Thank you, Jeanine.
Please give our best to the better half, Roxanne.
I
And
will
we
do
miss
that. I will do that.
And Jeanine, once again, another great show, and we'll be back next week with some great guests there. So, once again, who's looking out for you with Representative Al Baldessaro and Representative Jeanine Notter?